Sweet.
We got 10 seconds. Yeah, we already got that.
Okay.
I'll hold it far away.
We've all been there. We've had the movie at the tip of our hearts. That's been this film, Clementine, that we filmed over the span of 3 days. It's been this passion project of mine for about 8 years. We finally went to camera. We finally finished the movie. It's played at a number of film festivals. We're about to release it. And I want to talk about making that passion project. There's no better tool for completion than going with momentum. If you shoot a little bit here and then shoot a little bit over there, you're probably not going to get your movie done. The best way to actually get your film finished is to shoot it all at once.
With a cast and crew of 13 people, a budget of $8,000, we shot the most ambitious science fiction film I've ever created.
Hold tight, don't let go. Don't let go.
Trying to think, will this edit together? Will this not? Because when you're working on the fly, you're moving through different scenes, shots look good, moments are great, acting's awesome, but then you're like, okay, this cuts here, and as the director, you're constantly being like, does this edit? You're like the editor on set, which can sometimes become a bit of a clusterfuck. No, it doesn't need to be thinking. It'll animate when she goes, Clementine, we'll just do an insert of that turning on.
Clementine?
I'm always listening.
Do you have any security footage?
I don't have access, but the DNA from the blood on the glass matches your mother's. Does that help?
That's trainer. C9, shot one, take one.
This house specifically, lighting was so easy because we had natural daylight that came in. So instead of trying to bring up big lights and set everything up, we were able to just schedule the day around where the sun was going to be hitting the house, and therefore getting natural daylight without these big setups and actually just creating diffusion or putting up things like black to create negative fill instead of setting up massive lights. Now, if there was any sort of lighting setups that we did, it was just to emulate sunlight. So luckily, the house had propped up areas outside where a light could go outside a window and we could shoot it through the glass to create a sun type effect, or we could just shoot a light up against a wall to give a wall a little bit more depth. But there wasn't any crazy lighting setups, and that was because we were really able to ace it with the location. What we have is natural light coming through the window, and what you'll also recognize is that there's some diffusion on the one side with this big white sheet hanging down, and then also on the opposite side we have negative fill, so this big black sheet. This is to create a little bit of shadow from the direction of where the camera is coming from to give the shot more depth.
That's what people do.
It's the opposite. You ever hear of pride?
One of the most difficult things of this project specifically was we had an AI as one of the characters. So I VFX'd all of the shots in of the person who she's talking to. So Jackie, our lovely actor, was working with our producer, AJ, and she was speaking to her off camera. So if you have like a voice or someone's on a phone call, or perhaps you have an AI generated in a house that someone's speaking to, having an actor on the other side is really beneficial, and having someone who's experienced with acting makes it a whole lot easier for your main actor.
I think that, yeah, you're pissed off, but like all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, yeah, it's just the two of us.
Exactly.
So like, all we have to do is play chess, and that's annoying, but like, let's make it stupid and fun. So
working with someone who's also versed in acting, especially as their producer, they can start pitching ideas on how something works and what might read better. And at the end, I mean, I think that's like the best part of collaboration, is that you have someone who can throw stuff into the mix of ideas, and you're not just in this silo of constantly thinking of like what works best. You can actually open it up to other creatives to throw in their thoughts.
Visual light change.
Scene 14, shot 3, take 1. This is a slate, and you'll probably see it in a lot of movies and probably don't know what it does. This is roll, which we don't use film rolls anymore. We use SD cards. But if you're still using film, this would be like a roll, or a film reel, or SD card would be card 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this keeps you organized so that when you're in the edit, you know what card you were on when you were filming. Especially if you're shooting a lot of footage, you'll go through 10 to 15 cards, and this will be a good way to know what card you were on what day. When this slaps down, it creates a loud sound, a peak in the audio files. This is so you can sync your footage with your camera. And then you line up the closing when these two things touch with the peak in the audio file, and you'll get the shot synchronized. Now, sometimes someone might slate twice or 2, 3 times. That's where you'll have to do a thing called second sticks, where you do it again. The next part, scene 1 alpha, you'll see a number and then a letter traditionally, and it goes all the way down to Z. And what Z or A or any letter of the alphabet means is what shot you're on in that scene. So if, let's say, you have a big scene with lots of coverage, you would do scene 1, which would be the actual scene that's happening, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And you can go down the alphabet per shot for that scene. And then once you've banged out that scene, you go on to the next. And you follow by the script to know what scene you're at. So depending on how many takes you have, let's say your camera's messing up, actor's messing up, whatever's happening, this number keeps changing. So this keeps you organized throughout the whole day. Knowing the director's name and the camera and the film that you're working on, I mean, I've never really worked on a project where I'm like, oh, what was the name of the movie we're working on? Who's directing this? If you, for some reason, have a scene where the camera starts really close to the actor, or there's a big action bit and you can't get the slate in, then you do a thing called a tail slate, where the slate is upside down and you mark it that way. MOS, M-O-S, means that it is without sound. And that's an important thing to know, because if you're doing a shot, which a lot of the ones in Clementine actually we did for no sound, because the sound person was only there on the second and third day, not the first, we didn't roll sound. So what you do is the slate just stays closed. You don't open it. And that way, when the editor goes through, they know there is no sound on the take, but you're still keeping organized with all of the shots and footage. Our next setup after the chess scene is dealing with a spider. This is a sequence where Jackie takes a spider off a plant and then puts it in a glass, which was one of the hardest things to do in the film. It's also one of the things that most people are like, oh my God, how'd you get a spider? It was more complicated than it seemed. I had to find a spider out in the middle of the night, hunting through a garage, ended up grabbing it, throwing it in, and it boosted up the production value. Sometimes, most times, things that cost no money actually boost production value up a whole lot. For some reason, $0 can sometimes feel like $1,000 or $10,000. So putting a spider in this movie, while it cost no money, a little bit of rifling through a garage in the middle of the night, it made the movie seem way bigger and way larger. Nick just sort of directing some of the lighting for our kitchen sequence. This is where Jackie walks through the kitchen and finds broken glass and blood on the floor, which kind of stretches the narrative further. For this, we shot it on a Dana dolly, which is one of my favorite tools. I talk about it all the time, mostly because it is the poor man's dolly system, and I think it works incredibly well as a device to get the dolly shot without having to like lay down tracks and do all this crazy stuff.
Sick. Cool, eh?
Tasty. Blood on it, okay. And that's when you ask. Jackie, pick up that tiny piece, look at it. Oh, okay, reset. Nick, are you able to get the move going right when you get to the ground there?
Clementine? I'm always listening. Do you have any security footage?
Do you want any focus pulls to the glass at all? You want to just stay on Jackie?
Let's try staying on Jackie for this one.
Got it.
8, shot 1, take 3.
And action. One of the biggest things that I love about having a crew versus shooting something on my own is the fact that morale, vibe, whatever you want to call it, can dip super quick. Meaning you're going to get exhausted, you're going to be stressed on time, and as soon as the director or leader starts getting stressed out, it becomes increasingly more difficult for everyone to feel stoked about the project. But when you have multiple collaborators, people taking care of the camera, someone taking care of the lighting, someone taking care of the wardrobe, and you're just focused on making sure everyone's dialed in on what's happening, actually have bandwidth to make sure everyone is feeling okay. Huh?
This is your hit from 89?
89, called Clementine. Clementine 89. Clementine.
I'm wondering what time is it?
It's Clementine.
There's gonna be a lot of off time when you're making a film. There's just like moments where nothing is happening and people are kind of standing around. You're either waiting for lighting, camera, maybe a production design element, and you just gotta keep the good vibes rolling. Our final setup of the day upstairs in this bedroom for this pretty intense scene with Jackie where she's kind of had it with the machine. And this is also the opening scene of the film too. We shot 2 scenes in the same location, changing up the angles to make it feel different, but really it was the same part of the day. We just changed camera to make it feel different.
I think, you know, when you have this idea of making a movie, there's sort of this undervalued asset in the sort of pre-production or sort of the conceptual thing of how many hands are in the process of this. But when you're on set, you actually get to see, like, it's not just a cinematographer or a director or an actor, it's so many other departments that make this happen, and this film has been an amazing illustration of just teamwork making the dream work.
Every time my arms get down.
You're killing me, dude. I was lucky. Try harder next time.
Okay, coming!
I gotta go to school.
Some of us can't sit around all day.
I'm lying down, not sitting. And besides, it's not like it's been sunshine and rainbows around here. My parents are mental.
Shot in this lovely bedroom that had this cool robotic TV that came out of the bottom of the bed because, you know, sometimes you need that. So the budget of Clementine was $8,000 Canadian, which is like $200 US. And one of the biggest things that stretched our dollar really far was the fact that we shot in an incredible location. Now, locations are going to stretch your dollar further than almost any element on making a movie. They'll be able to get you beautiful imagery without having to boost it up with production design. Where you're gonna find your budget growing is if you're shooting actually in a mediocre location. Now, while not all of us can get really epic spaces, I think most of us actually can write around maybe one of our ideas and get a cool spot. Our current project that we're working on, Echoes, it's a film that I knew we wouldn't be able to get any sort of crazy set pieces. So I'm like, let's base it in a forest. Let's actually make the wardrobe, make the space look cool. So we ended up using a red jumpsuit, and I'll talk more about this project in the future. But I think what you can really do to ace your film is find a location and also figure out wardrobe that will amplify the location, make it feel cooler. So with Clementine, it was this like white linen that Jackie wears throughout the film and just makes every frame pop. And working around the sun, working around the location really gave us more bang for our buck. Like if we were to actually rent this location out and maybe build it as a set and go against the sun, the film probably would have been a $50,000 to $60,000 film, but we were able to chop that into a fraction because we worked with what we had.
You think you're making good time, like Nick and I were talking about this earlier, it's like you think that you're doing really well, and then you check out the AD and they're like, and it feels like we're always chasing the clock and chasing the sun. And the big thing is we've been really fortunate to get this incredible location for filming this movie, which is this stunning house, which is the key feature of this film. And the big thing we're working on now is the homeowners coming back. I think one of the biggest underestimated things in pre-production and just even conceptual stuff with movie stuff is locations, and I think that's one of the major like gains for this film, but it's also one of the major like, oh my god, and it's like in this moment I understand why Hollywood movies shoots on sets, because you don't have to worry about the homeowners coming back. You don't have to worry about the location people being upset because you nicked something. We didn't, but
I also got to work with some of the most incredible people. Nick Pilecki, our cinematographer, Vince Moskovic, who is the production designer, gave us a bunch of little cool elements. We've got my 2 producers, Gina Simone, Anna Jane Edmonds, Jackie, the lead actor, who also was able to ace us this amazing location that was provided by some incredible family friends. Our wardrobe person, Faye Fan, who crushed it with the wardrobe that you see on screen. Every single little element that you see in the credits of a film all make it what it is. But if there's one suggestion I would make is go through the list of wardrobe, production design, cinematography, location, and figure out which one of those can amplify what you currently have. I think a lot of us as filmmakers, we look at cinematography or we obsess over camera movement and maybe disregard some elements that can make something really good, like wardrobe or minor production design elements like a dead bird in a pool and VFX, but not crazy VFX, but just slight enhancements. So what slight enhancements can you throw into your film to make it better? If you guys like the making of this, Clementine will be coming out hella soon. It is being released very soon, actually this month in March. So if you want to give the film some support, give it a gander. I'm really excited for you to see it. It's probably my most proudest work to date. I'm rocking back and forth in the seat right now because I'm just so dang excited about it. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Absolutely love you. And if you want to give this channel even more support, you can hit some buttons in the description below and really help out a whole lot. Anyways, love you guys. Have a great day and enjoy Clementine.